Okay, so before we start for the multi-time frame analysis, I always use H4 or daily because that's roughly the middle time frame. And obviously, what I always say to everybody that before you even trade, you need to identify what particular trader you are. If you are scalper, intraday, or a swing or position trader. So in that in that sense, you know that what particular time frame, what particular setup in, and what particular time frame you are looking into. Because if you're an intraday trader, then obviously you need to look for setups at H4 and daily. And for scalpers, then obviously it should be H4 or below. And for position trader, that should be daily and above. Okay, so I think I'll let you guys choose what market you guys want to look at this morning. So what can you guys give me a pair that we want to look into this morning? Looks like we're looking into EU. All right. Okay. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my own SOPs when it comes to multi-time frame analysis. So what I usually do is I open up time frame daily first. Sorry, excuse me. So the daily time frame, and the first thing that we need to look at is obviously, hang on, where the MO50 is. So let me just read the SOP for this. So we use I use this multi-time frame analysis on all time frames, but before we even go to all the different time frames, what I design is that we use the daily as um, our starting point, so we know where we should be looking at after that. So, for example, we use daily for EU, and we need to check where MO50's position is. Is it below or above mid BB? Because that will dictate what is the trend on the lower or the lower time frame for that. So it can be either downtrend or uptrend. Then the next thing you need to check is whether the price is at MA50 or is it away from MA50, because then now you know after this time frame you know that where you're going after that. Because if it's at MA50, you need to be looking at a setup on a higher time frame. But if the candles are away from MA50, then you have to look for a setup on a lower time frame. Okay, and if the MA50 is outside of the Bollinger Band, then obviously you need to remember the main function of the Bollinger Band is to ensure that all the candles and moving average are within the Bollinger Band. So in that sense, it tells you that the price is going to go sideways. If the price goes sideways, then you know that it is creating a re-entry on a higher time frame. Okay, so let's look at the daily of EU. So let me just see. From opening the daily, you already know that this is an uptrend market. Okay. So over here we have the MA50 above mid BB. So there's a what do you call this? You know that on the lower time frame it's a downtrend at the moment. However, um, what you need to understand that when the price is exactly where MA50 is, then this particular zone is obviously a re-entry on a higher time frame. Okay, so okay, let me just go to weekly now. So if you can see on a weekly basis, it looks like that it is a re-entry. Okay, so don't worry, we'll before we even go forward, then we'll just stay in the daily first. So we already know that MA50 is above mid BB, which shows that there's a potential downtrend on the lower time frame, and the price is at MA50, which indicates that there is a setup on a higher time frame, which is weekly. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So the next one is we need to define what particular Bollinger Band it is. Is it sideways or momentum BB? So go back, looking at this Bollinger Band, then you know that this is a sideways Bollinger Band. So if it's a sideways Bollinger Band, then you know that it's extreme B over here. Okay, so let me just put some stuff over here. It's quite important that you know how to identify the potential signals. So you know if there's extreme B here, extreme B indicates that every time the candle reject or break a sideways Bollinger Band, there will be a reversal towards mid BB. So in this sense, it tells me that the price from here will go to mid BB at least. Okay, so right now this is a sideways Bollinger Band. So let us go to the next one. Number 3, you need to check for signals and setups. Okay, so I think I already did that on number 3. However, we do need to understand that there's a particular setup in here. So okay, from here we have extreme A. What does extreme A means? Extreme A is when the MA is outside of the Bollinger Band. Okay, so whenever the MA is outside the Bollinger Band, that's extreme A. Extreme A indicates that there's a possibility of a trend reversal. Okay, but it's not confirmed yet. Alright, so we have extreme A over here, then obviously we will have TP Wajib over here. Okay, that's TP Wajib because whenever you have extreme A, the take profit will be at MA5 low, MA10 low, or mid BB. But to be safe, I'd rather take my profit on MA5 low. Okay, so extreme A, TP Wajib, then obviously the price tried to go up again, but could not manage to break top BB. So this is the first, this candle over here is the first indication of an MHP. So the next thing we need to know is there's this candle could not break top BB after an extreme A. So this is a first indication of MHB. Okay. Then the next thing we need to find whether there will be a reverse candle. So the second one is also a candle that couldn't break top BB. And finally, you have a reverse candle over here. So what you need to do when you see this combination, then immediately you need to make a marking on the highest body. Okay, let me just fix this. Okay, so what I usually do is I mark the highest body of this particular MHB. So in the future, when there is a retest, the MHB retest, then that will complete the MHB setup. Okay, so let me just open this for you guys. So this is an MHB because you have a candle that couldn't break top BB, you have two candles that couldn't break top BB, you have a reverse candle, and then finally the price went down and there is an MHB retest over here. So this is actually the point where you should go for sell after the MHB retest, because that completes the MHB setup. Okay, so as after this, then you have candlestick Arakuko. So let me just mark that for you. Okay, so you have a candlestick Arakuko in this particular area. So obviously, after candlestick Arakuko, the price continued to go down, and then you have candlestick momentum. So now this is a full setup of sell that you have at over here. Okay, and again, over here on this particular side, the price went down. Then you have another signal over here, which is extreme A buy. Okay, so you have extreme A buy over here, and this one is, let me just edit it. Okay, so now you have another signal over here which is not confirmed yet. However, you have extreme A buy, and then you have TP wajib. TP wajib is also, if you look at this on a sell point of view, you have candlestick momentum over here, and you have re-entry. Okay, and then you have a candle that couldn't break low BB. You have a reverse candle. Okay, so then you need to mark the lowest body. Now this is a buy setup, MHB buy. So obviously this now here is the retest of this MHB. Then the price went up. You already have hang on, let me just sort this out. Okay, so you have a buy MHB over here, and now you also have candlestick Arakuko. However, this candlestick Arakuko, now you don't have any momentum at the top because there's a extreme B sell. Okay, so that's the setup for EU daily at the moment. But we know the next time frame we'll be looking into, it will be weekly. Okay. Okay, so that's done. Now we need to check for MA configuration, crossover modes and indicator attractions, whatever. Okay, so we need to look into the moving averages. What are they looking at right now? So obviously there's crossover over here. So this is all by crossover because MA5 is above MA10. So this is a crossover. However, if you can see on this particular point that Malo 5 is going towards Mahi 10. So when this happens, you know that the price is going to go sideways and downwards, okay, to create re-entry or probably a reversal. Okay, so number 5, then it will now depend on your other knowledge. Let's say, for example, you know candlestick formation, you also know how to use awesome oscillators, or probably use Fibo in that sense. So you can use all of the other stuff that you know to help you decide, well, what particular setup that you're looking for. Okay. So let me just look at this. Okay. All right. So basically, the market looks like it's going down. But obviously over here we know that the price had already break through TP1 for sell setup at daily. Okay, now let's look at the weekly point. All right, Let me just open another one so it doesn't mix up. So on the weekly time frame, because earlier on we know that the price is at MO50, so we know that we need to look into a much higher time frame. Okay, so obviously here what we have is an extreme A because the MA is outside of the blinker band. Okay, so before we even start, since we know at the daily we have the price at MO50, right? Okay, so this is a possible setup for a higher time frame. So here it tells us that this is a re-entry sell. Okay, this might be a re-entry sell, but obviously here this candle, the weekly candle, did not close rejecting Mahi 5 and Mahi 10. So it's not confirmed yet that this is a re-entry sell. So maybe the next candle would be the re-entry sell, but it's not confirmed yet because Mahi 5 breaks. Sorry, the candle breaks Mahi 5, so the price will continue to go up in that sense. Okay, so looking at the weekly time frame, we know that this is an uptrend because EMA is below the mid BB. Okay, however, the price is just about on the middle part of the part because it's in the middle of the Bollinger Band. But what you need to understand here that MO50 is outside of the Bollinger Band. So whenever the MO50 is outside the Bollinger Band, there are two possible things that might happen. So if this is a sell setup, then obviously the price will go towards MO50 to put it back inside the Bollinger Band. Okay, but let's just analyze the market for the weekly first. Okay, so obviously we know that the price has gone sideways over here, so we know that this is a sideways Bollinger Band. Let me just, okay, you can already see here over on the top. And we also know that when MA50 is outside the Bollinger Band, we know that the price will go sideways to create a re-entry on a much higher time frame. Okay, so we already identified MA50 where it is, and there's a possible setup at the middle of of the Bollinger Band. And we already identified number 2, the type of Bollinger Band that it is at the weekly time frame. And the next one is we need to look into the number 3, signals and setup. So I already indicate over here extreme A sell. Then you have TP wajib, which is also, if you look at it in a buy setup, you have CSM, you have re-entry. So you need to remember that every first candlestick momentum will create a re-entry. Okay. However, what we have here is extreme A sell. You have TP wajib. The price has gone up. However, there hasn't been any candlestick momentum so far. So there's a big indication of the market slowing down, and it doesn't have any more momentum to go up. And finally, you have a candle that couldn't break the BB over here, and then you have a reverse candle. However, there's another re-entry buy over here, then the price went up again. And finally, you have a candle that couldn't break top BB, so we mark this, we mark the highest body. Okay, let me just color code it. We mark the highest body, and there is a reverse CS. So the next time the price went up to this zone, this is a sell opportunity over here. So let me just mark this. So that's MHB. Okay, that's MHB retest over here. And then you have CS Arah Awal, this candle over here. A candle that breaks Malo 10 and Malo 5. So this is a candlestick early direction, candlestick Arawal, and then now you have a candlestick Arah Kuku that also breaks Malo 5, Malo 10, and mid BB. So this is candlestick Arah Kuku. Alright, so you have candlestick Arakuko, and then this now here, because after candlestick Arakuko, if you look into my channel, there are four things that might happen after candlestick Arakuko. But first of all, you need to identify that this candlestick Arakuko is valid or not. So how to validate it? You have to mark the candlestick Arakuko, and you look in the lower time frame whereby within 7 candles there should be a candlestick momentum. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So obviously on the 5th candle there is already a candlestick momentum. So this validates this candlestick Arakuko. And look, if you look at a higher time frame, there shouldn't be a re-entry buy. So right now, this candlestick Arakuko at the weekly is still invalid because of this particular setup at the monthly time frame. Okay, because on the monthly time frame you have candlestick momentum, and this is a re-entry buy on a higher time frame. Okay, so we have to be careful with this sell setup on the weekly. Okay, because there's a higher chance that the price went down on the weekly just to create a re-entry on a much higher time frame due to the higher time frame is on an uptrend. Okay, so let's continue with the process. Okay, so there's a possibility of a re-entry sell at a weekly. Okay, over there. So we don't know that yet. But however, we know that EMA 50 is outside the blinker band, which tells us that there is a re-entry on a higher time frame. So the next time frame that we need to look into will be on the monthly time frame. Okay, but now we are on the number 4. Number 3 we finished signals and setup. Number 4 will be the MA configurations. So the MA configurations for the weekly is at the moment is on a sell configuration, whereby there's a crossover. The Malo 5 MA5 and is below the MA10. And finally, the 5th one is obviously using the Fibonacci retracement. If you know how to use it, or candlestick formation, it all depends on what other types of stuff that you guys know. But for me, I usually use whatever that I have learned just to support my initial analysis. Okay, so let me check this one. Okay, so what this tells me that this is a buy setup for the weekly over here at the bottom, and obviously the price went up, continuing up, and the price has already completed the TP2 zone. Then obviously the next target will be at this zone over here. So that's how I look at it on a weekly basis. Okay, hang on. Somebody's having a problem with the sound. Okay, so that's on the weekly side of things. Let us go to the monthly. Okay, let me open another one just to. Okay, now we are at monthly. We have the hang on H1. Okay, so on a monthly basis we have the EMA 50 above mid BB, and the EMA 50 just went back inside the blinker band, which tells us that this is a downtrend. on a monthly basis. Okay, and the type of Bollinger Band that we have on a monthly is still sideways Bollinger Band at the moment, but there's a component of momentum at the top BB. However, the low BB indicates sideways. Okay, but here we know that this is there's a component of momentum at this particular area. So the next one will be identifying the Bollinger Band. So this Bollinger Band is quite tricky in a sense that on the lower Bollinger Band tells us that this is a sideways Bollinger Band. However, on the top over here tells us that there's a component of momentum. Okay, so you need to understand all of this. So the next one will be the signals and setup. So what signals that we have available for the monthly basis is obviously an extreme buy over here. MA is outside of the Bollinger Band. Sometimes it's quite important for you to mark all of these things so that you guys understand. I mean, it helps you to identify all the other stuff. Okay. So that's extreme over there, and obviously you have TP wajib if we look at it on a buy point of view. Okay, so that's TP wajib. On a sell point of view is obviously you have candlestick momentum and now you have re-entry. So that's obviously telling the same thing, but we're looking at it on a buy perspective over here. Okay, so when you have a candle that couldn't break low BB, so this one obviously there was a gap over the weekend. I mean over the month. Suddenly the price was over here, but however this was the lowest at this particular juncture. So I would always mark this lowest point. Okay. So the next time the price comes here, then this is a buy opportunity as long as there is no candle that becomes a momentum on the low BB. Okay, so this is a potential MHB on the monthly time frame, and you have MHB, and you also have a candlestick Arakoko over here, a candle that break through Mahi 5, Mahi 10, and mid BB. Then at the top you have CSM. Okay, and over here you also have a setup. So this candle is still not closed, so we still don't know whether it's a re-entry buy or not. Okay, but obviously on a bigger scale of things, that obviously the story is what I see right now is the only reason why daily and weekly went down is to create a re-entry buy for the monthly time frame. Okay. Okay. So that's the signals and setup for the monthly time frame. Now, what do we use? I mean, how do we use this information right now? Because at the moment, if I was a swing trader, then I would probably go for buy at this particular juncture because you have a buy setup over here. The weekly as well. Weekly tells me that the price break Mahi 5, so it tells me that the price is going to go up. And there's also MO50 over here. Okay, outside of the Bollinger Band. Now daily tells me that there's also a buy setup. So at the moment there's a lot of buy setups from daily, weekly, and monthly as well. However, what we do need to understand that on the lower time frame, it's still on a downtrend. However, the lower time frame goes downtrend just to create that re-entry buy for the monthly. So right now we cannot tell that this is a re-entry buy because of one important aspect, because this monthly candle hasn't closed yet. So this is where the tricky part of going into multi-time frame. Okay, so right now I have all the information from daily, weekly, and monthly. So if I was an intraday trader or a swing trader, then obviously that will tell me that there's a possibility of a swing trade for buy on this particular juncture. However, based on the MA50 concept, based on the MA50, whenever the MA50 is outside the blinker band and there's an extreme at top BB where MA50 is, that this is a possibility of a re-entry sell on a much higher time frame. So obviously there's no more higher time frame than this, then there is a possibility of a setup on a much higher time frame. So a sell setup for a much higher time frame. So this will now, the sell setup over here will now be dictated by what's going to happen on a weekly time frame. So let's go to H4 now. Okay. So H4 MA50, it's outside of the blinker band, which tells us that there is a setup on a much higher time frame. So we go to daily. There's an extreme over here, so there might be a reversal at this particular juncture. So there's this Bollinger Band is sideways as well. Sorry about that. Okay, let me just use this one. So we know H4 Bollinger Band is sideways, so whenever a time frame goes sideways, then it's creating a re-entry on a much higher time frame. Daily is also sideways, so we know that it's creating on a much higher time frame. So what do we have here is extreme A. Okay, let me just, and obviously you have MHB on the top. Okay. However, this MHB, the price went up. The price went down, but there hasn't been any indication of candlestick Arakuko. So here the price has rejected mid BB, and obviously the candle goes back up again. So over here, what you have here is obviously a extreme deviation 1. Okay, during sideways, whenever the candles reject division 1, then this is a extreme division 1. Alright, but at the moment there is a price consolidation here, that whereby that the price is going sideways along this area here. Okay, so that's the signals set up for H4. Then the MA configuration is also on a buy configuration over here. But what we need to understand in this one is obviously the one that I showed you before, that there's other filters that we can use. So candlestick formation, awesome oscillators of Fibo. So what I see on H4 here, there is a dominant candle over here. Okay. So the price will range within this dominant candle until there's a breakout. So if the price break up over here, then the price will continue to go up. And if there's a breakout on the bottom over here, breaking this dominant candle, then you know that the price will continue to go down. So there's other filters that we can use to help us identify some of the stuff. Okay, and then we move on to H1. So H1 also tells us that the MO50 is below mid BB, so it is a signal of an uptrend. There is the Bollinger Band is sideways. Okay, and signals setup at the moment is there's extreme A sell over here. There's no candlestick Arakuku as of yet. Okay, because this candle over here did not break Molo 5, so I will not count that in as well. However, over here we know that there is the price is at MO50. So when you know that the price is MA50, then there is a possibility of re-entry buy on the H4. So over here we know that there is a possibility of the price going up. Okay, so let's go to M30. The price is also the price couldn't break the low BB, and MA50 is below mid BB. So there's a huge indication of a buy setup over here. Okay, what I can see is there is head and shoulder at this particular juncture. So there's extreme deviation 1 over here. So this is the shoulder. Okay, and over here's the head, and the shoulder on the other side. So immediately over here, um, from all different angles, from weekly, from monthly to M30, now it tells me that the price is going up. So let's go to M15. So M15 as well, there is a couple of buy setup over here, but the price, the Bollinger Band is still sideways. MA50 is below mid BB over here. So usually when MA50 is playing around mid BB, then the direction of where the market is going is not yet confirmed. So there's a consolidation of price during this time. However, we know from the higher time frames that there's already possible of buy setups over here. So we have extreme A buy over here, extreme A buy, extreme A buy. However, there's no momentum as of yet over here. So the price is still ranging within the M15 Bollinger Band. Okay, so I'm not going to go through M5, but obviously now that we have all the other informations are within in our grasp, then now you need to understand what particular trader you are. So before you even commit to an entry, then you know which time frame that you entry. If you entry at H1, then your entry should be based on H1. Okay. So let's say, for example, that I entry at H1, then I will base it on an H1 TP and cut loss point. So if I've entry buy over here, then obviously if there's CSM sell on H1, that's my cut loss point. And if there's no momentum at top BB or an extreme at top BB, then that would be an early signal for me to take my profit, or it depends on what the higher time frame tells me. Okay, so I think that this is the where the market is going, because the weekly of EU has broken through the Mahi 5, so it's still gonna continue to go up. So let's say there's a possibility of another extreme sell on the top or extreme division 1 before it goes down. So it all depends on what happens on the next week. But for me, on the lower time frames, it all tells me that there's uh, there's signals of buy setups on the lower time frame. So because I'm a scalper, I would usually go for buy at this particular juncture and decide later on what happens over the week. Okay. For those who are in the webinar, if you have any questions, I'll open up to the floor for about 5 minutes on multi-time frame analysis. And then after this, after the 5 minutes, then I will go through another pair, but this time it will be much more quicker because I'm not gonna go through all the marking and stuff. I'm just gonna go straight to the multi-time frame analysis. So that shouldn't be taking a lot of time. Okay. It seems that there's no question at all. So we'll just continue. Let me just delete all of this. So um, let me go through AU for this particular analysis. Okay. So as usual, I will go to daily. I would go to daily. So the first thing that we need to identify is where MO50 is. MO50 is above MUBB. That tells me that this is a downtrend. However, the next one will be the where the price is. So the price is away from MA50, which tells me that I shouldn't be looking towards weekly. I should be looking towards H4, H1 for a setup for a possible um, entry. Okay, and the type of Bollinger Band that we have over here is, believe it or not, this is a sideways Bollinger Band over here at the bottom, because as you know that the price already sideways over here, and there's another sideways potential at the bottom over here. Then number 3 is signals and setup. We have extreme A buy over here, TP Wajib, the price went back down, it goes up, we have candlestick Arakuko. However, this setup is been cancelled off due to the CSM over here, because this MHB is invalid because of two things. First is this candle has closed lower than this candle, and also there's a CSM over here. So if you entry buy over here and then the price went back down, you should cut loss at that particular point. Okay, then the price continues to go down. There's a re-entry, another one over here and another one over here, and here on the daily candle rejected the low BB. So this is an extreme B over here. On H4, what we have is an extreme A buy, okay? And there's a possibility of re-entry sell over here, okay? And still MA50 is above mid BB, indicating that this is a downtrend market. Then I go to H1, we have extreme A. We have a candle that couldn't break low BB, and then there's a reverse candle. So this is an indication of an MHB buy. So usually I would mark this zone just in case that when the time comes again, when the price comes back here, then there's a point of entry buy for the H1 time frame, and it tells me that there's also no momentum over here, and the Bollinger Band is already going sideways. Okay. All right. So let's go to M15. So M15 also looks like a buy setup over here. The MO50 is above MBB. However, there is signs of a re-entry sell over here. Okay, so we still okay. So on an M5 point of view, because I'm a scalper, so there's no momentum whatsoever on the low BB. So it tells me that the price is going up, and MO50 is below mid BB. So whenever the price is below mid BB, then this is a possible setup on a higher time frame. So if I look at M30, then there should be a possibility of re-entry buy on M30 level. So for me, AU at the moment looks like it's going up for a retracement. Okay, so from daily to M5, we've looked at quite quickly. So although I'm a scalper, I usually like to see what's happening on a much higher time frame. So as you can see on a much higher time frame, we have the MA50 below mid BB. So there's still no, I mean the price is at MA50 here, but already the price has gone through breaking MA50. So there is a possibility of downtrend on the weekly time frame. So what you need to understand that if MA50 continues its path, and if the Blinger band goes down here as well, because if it becomes momentum, so obviously at some point the MA50 will go somewhere there above mid BBB. Okay, so let me just delete all of this. So you just need to sometimes need to visualize what's going to happen next. However, over here, there's an indication of the sideways Bollinger Band over here. However, at this point, the top and low BB are pointing downwards, so there's a possibility of candlestick momentum. However, this weekly candlestick rejected low BB. Okay, and on a monthly time frame, it tells me that there's an extreme at MA50, which is a downtrend. So this is exactly a re-entry on a much higher time frame. So if there was 4 monthly over here, this could have been the re-entry sell on a 4 monthly basis. On last month, the candle break Malo 5, so it tells me that the price will continue to go down. So over here, the price already broken through mid BB. So there is a possibility of candlestick Arakuko on this one. And here you have signal of extreme A and then candlestick Arakuko. It depends really on how the monthly candle closes at this particular juncture. Alright, so what we have here for number 4 is the MA possibility of a crossover at this particular juncture. So there will be a time when this will be crossing over like this. Okay, so there's those possibilities on a monthly basis. So it tells me that this AU is going down far. Okay, so if we know that the month is going down, so what we need to look into will be a possible sell setup, and any buy setup for this one will be only for retracement. So what I usually do is I just use all of the other things that I know how to use. So obviously at this point the price has broken through the TP1 for sell Fibo, and on a monthly basis TP2 will be at low BB area division 1. Okay, so at the moment the only possible setup that I'm looking at is this particular area where you have CSM and you have re-entry at this one. So let's see what happens next on next week, because this point here, if there's a price reversal over here, then that will be the re-entry for H4. Okay, all right. So I think when it comes to AU, I would probably go for sell position for a swing trade for sell position. Okay, Okay, guys. Basically, this is an MHB entry. So, um, if there's, as you can see, a candlestick Arakuku buy, so it tells me that the price there's a continuation of price, like candlestick Arakuku. So this is basically an MHB entry. So if there's a CSM sell at the bottom here, then we shouldn't be, we should cut loss. But if there's no CSM, we just hold our position. Okay. So since we already have that, then I think we can pretty much go for that. Alright, so we'll just let it go for now. So I'll just pinpoint some of the stuff while the market's going. So over here, our H1, the price break through Mahi 5, so the price will continue to go up. In H4, we can't really see much because the sim hasn't loaded the blinker bands yet. But you can see here that the candle is rejecting Malo 5. That's why the price is going up. And then 15, you already have a setup over here. Basically, this is the shoulder. That's the head. Then you have another shoulder over here. Okay. So that's basically we're looking at M30 over here. So the price is right now at the pullback zone. Okay, sorry, that's too much. But yeah, so it should be like that because we already have some profits over there, so that will cover the new entries at the top. But we should be looking into take profit over here on the top BB because this is sideways. However, it depends on what happens on M15 as well. So M15, there's a possibility of reversal over here. So the price might go down. Let's look at H1. There's a re-entry sell over here. So the price might go down over here as well. So should be careful about this entry. So let's just see what happens. Let me just cascade. I'll take off this. Okay. So at least we can pretty much see some of the stuff. So here the price went back down over there to our initial MHV. So if there's a CSM at the bottom over here, if it breaks the lowest body, then we have to cut our losses. But if it doesn't, then we have to we can maintain our entry. Okay, there's a sell on one of the areas there. So the price continues to go down. So if it was me, I'll be looking at an M15 at the moment. There's a spreadable sell setup over here. So if there's sell CSM, then I will cut my loss on this particular area. Unfortunately, this because I was pressing just few, so it shouldn't be. I should have just entry for a few only just now. But I think there's a lag, so it actually enters a lot of entries instead of just few. So over here you can already see that the price is at the major zone entry. So if there's any CSM over here, because we entry at M30, so that's where we should. Okay, let me just slow things down so it's a lot easier for us to. Sorry. Okay. So if this becomes a CSM, then that should be a cut loss point at the moment. But if there's no CSM yet, then I will still hold my initial buys entries. So at H1, the price is still playing around Malo 5. Okay, so let's just wait it out. Still looking into 15 because this is a sideways Bollinger Band, so there's a possibility of a reversal to mid BB over here. But here at H1, the price has broken through um, Malo 5, so there's a continuation of the price going down. So for me, this is already an indication that I have to cut my losses over here. But okay, for educational purposes, that we should I'll just let it go for now, because this is the mistake that people always do. They always they always set a lot of entries on a particular entry. So when things go wrong, then your margin is not able to sustain the, what do you call this, the float that is happening right now. So let's see what happens on this one. So usually, if you have $100 USD account, for money management wise, I suggest that your entries should be more than 10 cents, which is more than, I mean, per entry. I would still start with 2 cents or 1 cents per entry on a $100 USD account. So on a daily basis, what you should be looking into, 1 cent entry, you should be looking into about 10 to 20 pips worth of profit. So that's what you should be targeting yourself onto. So unless you're already confident enough on the later stage, when you already understand how things work, then that's when you're more confident to entry a lot. As you can see earlier on, I said that there's sideways Bollinger Band, so there's a reversal to mid BB. So at this point, I will still hold this at the moment, because now you have another MHB buy over here. So okay, so there isn't any momentum yet on our entry zone, because we entry at M30, right? So I will still hold this position up to now, because I already set myself up. If this becomes a CSM, then that's when I will cut my loss. Okay. Okay. There's a candlestick Arakuko buy on M15, so that's a good sign for us, because since we're floating at the moment. Let me just expedite things. Okay, so now I have a candlestick Arakuko buy on H1, so things are getting much more better in our sense. Okay, there's another pullback zone over here. So we hit the top BB of M15 again, so there might be another cycle over here. As you can see, so there might be another wave over here. So it all depends on if M30 Malo 5 or Malo 5 H1 becomes for entry buy. Okay, so now the low BB is being tested again, as you can see. So all the M15 is going sideways, as well as M30. Okay, so that's another cycle. So fortunately, this new candle did not break the low BB, so we're still gonna hold this position. So here we are at low BB M15 and M30, which is also still sideways. So we'll just see what happens here. If this becomes CSM on M30, then that's our cut loss point. So fortunately, the candle rejected it, so there's another chance of the price will go up, but there's a sign of re-entry over here. Let's just see what happens. Okay, there's a potential re-entry sell at H1 in the middle BB, and also re-entry sell here at M30. So it all depends on if, for me, I would have TP earlier on, but let's just see what happens on this particular setup, because there hasn't been any momentum as of yet. So the price is already going sideways on H1. Okay. So again, there's another cycle of the on M15, M30, another cycle again. Let me just expedite things. Okay. So now we can see that there's a possibility of re-entry H4, and also the price is at MA50 um, H1. Okay. So let me just post things here. So it has been few hours now because we made a mistake. We entry a lot of buy entries over here that we made a mistake. Then we were floating for a few hours, and we've been stressing ourselves up on this particular area. Okay, so basically, if on the right side of things, when you have MSB entries, I wouldn't go through this extent of having to entry the whole full areas of entries. Okay, so if I was to entry, I would just entry maybe 2 or 3 lots at the bottom here, or maybe 5 lots up until to mid BB, and that's it. I wouldn't even go to top BB for another entries, because as you can see that we should be entering by entries on low BB, and it shouldn't be on the top BB. So whenever your entry is above um, your, I mean the price is above your entries already, for me, I would rather be happy to take my profit over here and leave some that is on the bottom. So let me just see things this over here. Okay, so basically I would go for whichever this one is. Okay, let's just close some of this stuff. um, okay, some of the entries. So for example, that we're just gonna take, because I'm a scalper, I usually take as much profit as early as I can and leave some entries. So this is where your money management comes as well. But you shouldn't be entering a lot of entries as earlier on. Okay. All right. So let me just clear things up. Okay. So I have 6 entries at the bottom over there left. So I don't know if this will work, but can I do this? Oh no, it only works with the actual market. Okay. So all right. So right now, what we need to do is, I'm not really sure with this one. I haven't tried this on the sim. But what we need to do is we have to put um, a buffer over here, because we enter an M30. So I usually have my for example, my stop loss. I will move my stop loss over here, because we already have gained profits from the earlier trade. So even if we lose this much over here to here, we're still on a gain because we started the account with $100 account. So for me, as long as it's in the green and the blue already, then I should just leave this entry to go, because right now is going up as well. And let's see what happens on H4 candle over here. So if H4 breaks my 5, then I would continue to hold this position. Okay, so it breaks my 5, but there's also still a possibility of re-entry sell over here, as we can see that mid BB has already shown over here and MO50. So there's a possibility of re-entry sell on a H4 level. Okay, so let me check. Okay, there's a re-entry by an M30. So in this sense, I will move my stop loss over here, because there's a re-entry buy over there. So I will just hold my position. Okay, unfortunately, over that there's a reversal for the H4 re-entry, but if you can see, we already have profit over there, so it hits a stop loss over there. Okay, so let me just close all over there. Okay, so in an entry, what I usually suggest for $100 account, let me just close this in. Alright, so give me a 5 minutes break. Let me just take out some stuff over here that I want to show you guys. Okay. Okay. Um, okay, I'm just sharing my own grow account. This is how I usually grow my account. So for example, let's just say that you start your account with $100 account. So the first thing that you need to know is that you have to identify, hang on, let me just, okay, I will just write it in for you guys. Okay, so first you have to define what particular trader you are. Okay, so when you know what particular trader you are, then you can set your targets after that. Because if you're a scalper like me, I would usually go for 10 to 20 pips on a daily basis. Okay, so this is just my plan on a daily basis. Okay, so when you have already planned out, and the next thing that you should do is you should do your money management. Okay, so this is all part of the money management. Alright, so I write down over here, and the last one is obviously this important aspect of it. Alright, so you define already what particular trader you are. For me, I'm a little bit of both scalping and intraday. But what I did earlier on, as I said to you, as I usually show in my channel, that as soon as my entry is already within the parameters of my 10 pips mark, I would already lock that 10 pips and let it go after that. Because even if it hits my stop loss, I would still be achieving my daily target. So what you need to do when you already set, okay, you already set you already you already you already say to yourself that you're an intraday trader, you're a scalper trader, and you need to be honest to yourself that you need to set your goals more what do you call this? I forget. What's the word for it? You need to set a target that you are able to achieve. Okay, do not set a target that you don't even know that you can actually achieve it. Okay, so for me, I'm a scalper and an intraday trader. I would probably be able to achieve 20 or 30 pips a day, but in this sense, I want to grow my account and I want to be able to withdraw at the end of the month while growing my account. So in that sense, I start with $100, and on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, I want to grow my account 20 monthly target. So 20% of $100 is $20. So at the end of the month, I would want to have my account to have $120. So how do I do this? Okay. So what you need to do is to set yourself up. If it's really hard for you, you cannot. I mean, in a month there is 20 days worth of trading. Okay, all right. 20% of $100 equals to $20. Okay, so for 20 days, in reality, you should be earning $1 a day. So I'm pretty sure that most of you traders out there would be able to do this. Okay, but it all depends on the fourth aspect and the third aspect, which is money management and discipline. Okay, so I have 20 days for this month. I have $100 and I want to grow it $1 a day. However, I also want to be able to withdraw at the end of the month. So how do I do this? Okay, so if I'm a trader who can actually achieve 20 pips a day, then that's great, because if I achieve 10 pips a day, that's about $1. Okay, so if I achieve 20 pips in a day, I would get $2 worth of profit, and I would be able to increase my capital to $101, and I would also have to be able to withdraw $1 every day. Okay, so if you set yourself up with a much more easier target, then that will be a lot more easier and it doesn't have any pressure on you. So the way I see it is, for this example over here, this is the one that I usually use, that as soon as the market has already gone, okay, let me just show, for example, over here. All right, so for example that let me find a good example. All right, let's just say that we entry um, okay, at this point over here, let's just point that we entry sell at that point over there. Okay, and as soon as we reach 10 pips, okay, so that's your 10 pips over there. Hang on, this is a higher time frame. Let me go to a lower time frame. Sorry about that. Okay, so for example that we entry sell over here. All right, so as soon as it reaches about 10 pips, okay, over here, then that's where the point where we should ask ourselves that what's going to happen after this. And then fortunately at 10 pips mark, there is a re-entry. As soon as the price go down on that re-entry, then we should set ourselves up for that stop loss, okay, at that point. So this is your profit. So whatever happens to the market, you're still gonna be earning that profit. So let me just move this about 10 pips. Okay, so that's about 10 pips over there. All right. So that's me protecting my $1 on a day. And then all of a sudden the price is already here. Okay. So I move to there to over here. That's about 30 pips over there. So now I move my SL point a little bit lower. Okay. So as soon as the price went back up and it hit your stop loss, you already achieve your daily target. Okay. So regardless what happened to the market, you already achieve 190 pips. Sorry, that's about 19 pips over there. Okay. So when you achieve 19 pips, you're already at $1.90 on the first day. This is only based on 1 cent lot. Okay. So what you should be doing on a day, because that's M15 re-entry sell on AUD USD. So your target was 20 pips and you win about 90 pips. So what you should be able to do on a daily basis is to make entries like this. Okay. So basically on your first day you already had achieved 19 pips. So today you only need to entry one more entry and achieve at least 1 pip. Okay. So let's say you find another entry. Okay, let's say you're still on AUD. So there's another re-entry sell again on AUD and you entry that again. Okay, so your target over there is about 1 pips because that's your remainder target over there. Okay, but the market went down so far that you achieve about, say, 6 pips. Okay, so basically today you already achieve about 25 pips. That's about $2.50. Okay, so if you already achieve your daily target, and if this market is still running, if it still hasn't closed yet, because I told you that you should lock your profit. So if it doesn't stop your SL plus, then you should constantly be moving your SL plus. So this should be growing as the market is growing. But whenever it hits your stop loss, you're not having to be pressurized of having to lose that trade because you already locked your profit. So that's the most important thing when it comes to trading and achieving your targets. Okay. So on a daily basis, let's say for the first day you already achieved $2.50, then obviously your withdrawal over here would be about $1.50. Okay. So I mean, let's just say that on an average, for example. Okay, let me just run out the numbers. That on a daily basis I would like to target 20 pips, and I'm only going to be using 1 cent on a $100 account. So on a 1 cent entry on a $100 account, that will take about 1,000 pips before this account blows off. So that is your money management already over there. Although you are only entry 1 cent, but if you achieve those daily targets, then you should be growing this account 20% on a monthly target. So every day, let's say for example you achieve 20 pips or more than that, then obviously at the end of the month you'll be achieving 20% growth on your account, and you'll also be achieving maybe more than 20% of that. So in reality, when you do this, you're already achieving about 40% monthly target because you're already growing your account and you're also having to be able to withdraw. Okay, so I have to tell you that at the end of the month, because when you finish this journal, you have to make your statistics. You have to see your win and loss ratio. So if your win and loss ratio within 10 trades that is above 6 or above 7, then you're doing good. But if you're still losing on the trades, then you really need to look up and read up some more and find the right setups for you. Okay, so you should be on a morning. On an everyday trading. What I always find out from my friends is they always wake up in the morning. They haven't brushed their teeth or washed their face, but they're already looking into entering a market. What you should be doing is you relax for a bit, get your breakfast, and then analyze. You find the right market for you. There's a lot of pairs out there, and first thing that you should do is you have to identify um, okay, so you have to identify a possible market opportunity. Okay, all right. And the next one is you have to analyze the market. The third one is you have to set yourself up, okay, for the entry. And during the entry, you have to do the maintenance, okay? Maintenance meaning you have to set your targets up. You have to set where your cut loss is, where your stop loss is, where you should lock your profit. So that's the maintenance part of it. And when the money is already rolling, then that's it. I mean, okay? So although it might sound very simple, but this is a very, very hard thing to do. To be honest with you, it takes a lot of discipline. Okay, you should be able to discipline yourself to narrow down your aim on a daily basis, because what you need to do in this account is you need to be able to achieve this 20% for the next 3 months. Because if you're able to do that, then that will give you consistency. And when you have consistency, then that's when the money is going to flow. Okay? So you have to be able to do all of this. You have to plan now. It's not Trading is not something that you just woke up, take out your phone and find a trade. If you are doing that, then you are actually doing it wrong. You should be planning yourself, planning what's your target, setting yourself for a monthly target. When you already set yourself up for a monthly target, then you should have a quarter, year, and a yearly target. So if you have all of those targets set up for yourself, then you have that um, what do you call this? You have that self motivation. You have a target to aim for. You're not just shooting whatever you're seeing out there. You don't just go into the market and hoping you're gonna get rich in one day. That's the wrong thing of thinking. You're not gonna get to become a millionaire in one day or a few months. I believe those guys that are millionaires out there, they're probably doing these things for years. So if you're having that same mindset, then I suggest that you change your mindset. You come up with a plan, define what particular trader you are, you set your targets, your daily targets, your monthly targets, your yearly targets, and then you find the right setups for you. You deal with the money management, and you have to discipline yourself. Okay. So I think that's it for today. I am Poof. I'm going to watch TV, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.